All right, so happy Monday. I was not able to get this recorded over the weekend, so had a little bit of time today to get my notes together and get this episode recorded out the door. So this is Monday, October 16th, and actually lots of news. If and there's going to be even more than I can even probably cover in this episode. So I do invite you to follow the Facebook page. I do probably post something an average once or twice a day over there, and I invite your comments. And as get into the feedback section, there's some feedback items that I'm going to cover today. So this is actually doing what I wanted it to do. So I do appreciate all of your feedback and comments. So let's get started. First is news. So all kinds of updates. There was one from Southwest. Not really going to affect me the way I see it, but I think all the fans and loyal folks to Southwest are going to like it. I didn't get a whole lot of time to really read over it. You can head over to the Facebook page. I posted a link to the news article. That is late breaking just today. Again, Monday, October 16th. But from what I get out of it, it looks like Southwest is going to make it easier to get their existing perks. If you're not familiar with Southwest, the way they do it, because everything is coach or economy class. So the things that they can upgrade you on over at Southwest are earlier boarding, faster bag checks because they give you free bags and things like that. They've also loosened some things over the past year as far as standby. Now, depending on where you normally fly to and from, that may or may not be a good benefit to you. Living in Atlanta and flying on Delta a lot, the standby and same day change stuff is pretty appealing. Because let's say that you go to book a flight. Let's say you want to go Atlanta to New York LaGuardia. Those flights almost leave every hour. And let's say you go to book that flight, and if you book the 9 a.m. flight, and that is $300, but you look later in the day, and it's $150, and you hold status on Delta, you to stand by now on Delta is actually free. That used to be something, well, if we want to do a history lesson, that was free a long time ago. Then airlines figured out, oh, we can start charging money. Then that went from $50. Now the fee is $75. But what a lot of the airlines have started doing is they've lessened that or weakened that. So standby on most of the airlines is free to confirm on the airlines, though, is around $75 MSRP if you do not have any status. So again, living somewhere in Atlanta, flying on a very popular route, think, Atlanta LaGuardia, Atlanta Orlando, Atlanta Fort Lauderdale. Those are, very, heavy scheduled flights with Delta or routes with Delta. You may be, if you're flexible, be able to jump on some earlier flights if you have that status. Now, Southwest, that is available, but you may not have as many options. So number one, will the flight be full? Number two, does it really make sense to even change to an earlier flight or later flight? So, you've got all the above. So, check it out. Head over to the Facebook page if you are a fan of Southwest. Read through what they announced today. See if that's worth it for you. Now, my Delta fans. So on the other side, Delta is. I think you may have missed the deadline because I think the deadline may have been Friday. I don't think we are going to be able to take advantage of it because it's kind of a specific targeted promo for flying international, and our next international flight, if we do it, is going to be around Christmas. And interestingly, that promo excluded that for whatever reason. But what Delta wanted you to do was to fly internationally with a ticket of $500 or greater. And if you did that, you would get a $100 eCredit towards a future flight. I believe this was a targeted offer for Delta Amex card holders. So I threw our name in the hat because you had to register and enroll for this. This also tied in with some other interesting promos with a Amex loyalty stuff that went down a week or two ago. So check that out. Sorry, I was not able to get it out there. I think I actually posted it, so that's another reason you may want to follow the Facebook page if that is something you were able to take advantage of. Another one that a friend, I think you would appreciate it. So Doug the driver over here in Tucker, he runs a I won't quite call it a limousine service, but I would say he's better than Lyft or Uber. So if you live roughly in near Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta and you want to get back and forth to the airport and you do not want to park down there and you do not want to ride MARTA, he will actually schedule a time and he will track your flights and he will get you to and from the airport. And he's a local guy. He does a lot for the community, for giving back and so forth. So that's Doug the driver. But he actually posted this recently in Delta. A lot of people refer to Delta Sky Miles as Sky Pesos. Now, that's not exactly the most politically correct term, I suppose. But the reason some people call them Sky Pesos is because it's a very glass half empty attitude that these Sky Miles are not worth anything. But for 50,000 Sky Miles round trip, you can fly on certain dates from Los Angeles to Auckland, New Zealand. So I'll repeat that again for folks that are, all bitching about Delta a lot lately. 50,000 Sky Miles from Los Angeles to Auckland, New Zealand and back. Now that isn't coach. It's not, a front. You'll have to pay quite more for that. But that is something. And actually he has a lot of friends in town and with some Sky Miles to give. And he and his wife, I believe, are now going to New Zealand with the Sky Miles that he had and the ones from his friends. So, never underestimate. And there are some other sites out there that you can have that track these kinds of offers when they come along. So never underestimate that there are offers like that out there. The next item, this was interesting because most of you who are following me, I did take JetBlue up on their offer to match status on their Mosaic program. And another interesting offer, we may do a trip over to London for Christmas. And I'm going to get into this in a little more detail, but the reason that it popped up is JetBlue just happened to trigger an email about this whole status thing. But they have a discount or actually a free upgrade option. If you ever fly into Heathrow in London, there is a fast train option with pretty regular service that goes from Heathrow to the London Central. I have to look up again where that actually stops, and there may be one stop in the middle, but it's a pretty rapid transit service. I think I've ridden it once years ago. It's very easy. It's about 15, 20 minutes. It's the fastest way literally to get from Heathrow to the center of London. It's on a train, direct service. So they also apparently offer what they call a business first class experience on this, short little trip there. And there are a couple of airlines, including JetBlue. And it was interesting to me because it was just buried in an email and I couldn't find the direct link on JetBlue's website, so I had to hunt a little bit today to find it, but you will find that link also on my Facebook page, my great offer, if this is something you are looking at going over there. And it's not just JetBlue. There are a couple of other airlines that offer this, but it's a free upgrade to this first class experience. Now, also if you happen to return from the city of London back to Heathrow, this is going to get you a couple of possible extra perks, getting you through security possibly quicker. I have not been to Heathrow in years, but I'm hearing that the ground experience is not the best when it comes to customs and or possibly security. So this could be a time saver and maybe a slightly better ride, in getting, into the center of London. Not necessarily in welcome listener, happy Monday. But if you are not necessarily staying where the train drops you off in the center of London, it would possibly get you, you get to that station in central London and you take a taxi, Uber or the tunnel, from there, depending on what your travel needs are. So check that out. I thought it was a pretty cool perk there. And it is still on the official website, and you've got the link over at my upgrade offer. So, Mr. Briggs, so speaking of this JetBlue status that I'm still learning about, and there are lots of little nooks and crannies to it. But this Mosaic status, one of the other interesting perks of being a JetBlue Mosaic and the specific tier is if you have a dog, or I guess cat would also qualify. To look that up to make sure, but they offer free pet fare. Now, this is not going to the airport and giving the airline your dog in a carrier and then putting under the plane. Since COVID has happened, that's not a common thing. So what this is you taking your pet into the cabin with you, and that pet being under the seat in front of you, and the pet remaining in that carrier for the duration of the flight. This is also not speaking to service animals, so that's a whole different thing. You have to have documentation for service animals and so forth. So we have a corgi. We adopted him earlier this year. He pushes about 30 pounds. He's a husky little guy. And so I've been joking with him that he is too husky to fly on JetBlue, unfortunately. So JetBlue actually lists out there, and I think it would make sense because those coach seats are not the largest, and I don't think he would even be comfortable, to stay in a carrier like that for like 2 hours, 3 hours. So I'm not going to put him through that. But they cut it off at 20 pounds. Now, I was curious about Delta, even though that pet fare will not be covered. And that pet fare is about $125-ish, depending on what airline you fly on. So it's not cheap. So it is a nice perk if you happen to be a JetBlue Mosaic member and maybe fly commonly and want to take your pet along with you. But again, not something it's looking like Mr. Briggs is going to be able to take advantage of. Although, again, we did adopt him, and the nice guys and the folks over at Pilots and Paul's, he actually did fly for us to adopt him, because it was quite a trek. He was with his foster mom over in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we did find a very nice pilot and his wife that flew him private. He was a little high class there, with a little private plane and a ride from Wilmington, North Carolina over to Winder, Georgia. So wouldn't be his first time to fly, but not quite the experience that those great folks gave him. If you haven't heard of them, Pilots and Paws are a really great group of folks there helping out more than just Mr. Briggs. They do a lot of other work out there. All right, so and you've got links on that story if you want to dig in deeper to that. All right, so next up, an interesting news story, because I'd have to go back and dig, and even if this airline may still be in business, but Southern Airways Express, I believe their origins, and now that I think about it, they may have had even ties to, what is it, one of the Hawaiian small carriers. But Southern Airways Express, I believe, and the story is out there at my Great Offer, the Facebook page, if you want to read through it. But these pilots, they were later sued for quitting this airline. They believe for safety issues. I believe this airline was flying small Cessna planes, and it may have been a situation, I don't know if it was single pilot or pilot co-pilot, but they were later sued for quitting the airline. So, you've got a couple of paths to becoming an airline pilot here in the U.S., and but coming out of the military is one. If you go through all of that and the selection criteria to be a military pilot, but if you do it as a civilian, it's quite an expense. I do have a friend that is going through a program, I think kind of subsidized by Southwest, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And it's quite expensive. Fuel is not cheap. Aviation maintenance and planes are not cheap. You've got books, you've got, it's at least, 12, 13, 14, 1,500 hours of flying experience. before you can even, sit in that seat to be a co-pilot. And so these pilots, at Southern Airways Express, it just goes back to, I've alluded to it on my prior episodes. These employees that work at these airlines, sometimes you need to step back and have a appreciation for how much money they actually make. You may have expectations or assume at times that they make more money than they actually do. And I'll kind of leave it at that if that's a story you want to dig into. But it was it raised my eyebrows, and something that if that's logistics type stuff, and I always like to read into how things work and logistics and all that. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to read more into that. All right, so next section, where I've been, where I'm going. So we are preparing to go up to Ellijay this weekend. And this whole thing about inflation and all. So the ribeyes that I got, if you've never been and you live in the area, go to the Buford Highway Farmers Market. It's right over here on Buford Highway near Spaghetti Junction. Ribeyes, $9.59 a pound. That's unheard of. That there's even Costco and Sam's Club cannot match that. That they come about 4 to a pack. Freeze them if you don't, cook them immediately. But nobody can touch that price. I got chicken breast, $1.79 a pound. These prices you cannot match. Got that already. Doing tacos, we're doing steaks. Headed up there with our friends this weekend. Got the cabin. So we're doing Thursday through Sunday. So that's Friday. That's 3 nights. And I just reimbursed my friend. We're going to have the 4 bedrooms in the cabin. We've got a fire pit. We've got a hot tub, jacuzzi. We may have to share a bathroom. I'm not sure if all the bedrooms have a single one, but most of them do. And it was around $480 per couple. So that just comes out to just over $100 a night. And we're doing most of our own cooking. We may stay. I think there's an apple festival going on. Hubby talked about maybe going up to Murphy, North Carolina to the casino. So we'll see. Looking forward to a nice little getaway. This weekend, Thursday through Sunday. Unfortunately, speaking of Briggs, our friend confirmed with him today, just down the street, is going to keep Mr. Briggs. He cannot go with us. It is not a pet-friendly cabin, unfortunately. Briggs would have a big time there, but he'll have a good time with Uncle Todd down the street. Then the Boston work trip is still coming up. I did find a hotel, I think I may have mentioned last time, that's coming up on non-peak season, everything I'm seeing, and I was able to find a area, and it's around, because I'm looking at going, is it Wednesday to Saturday for that trip, and I got $3 with taxes included. And speaking of that Amex, member week, that would also fall under a credit through Hilton, because Hampton Inn is a Hilton property. I believe you had to spend $300 or more on a charge with a Hilton property, and they would rebate you back $80. So that actually brings it down to less than $400 for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 nights in the city of Boston. That's not bad, because some of those hotels can be $300-400 or more. Now it is getting into November. It's going to be cold, possibly snowy. So there is that. And then also we'll see what the impact, as I thought about as well, again, the whole Delta versus JetBlue experience and how they're able to handle that winter weather should it arise that week. So stay tuned. We'll see how that turns out. And no one has committed to actually joining us yet for that Christmas week trip. So, but the cruise we were looking at, it has dropped a little bit. When I looked at it, it was a balcony, and the Boozy Pass, there was a specialty restaurant or two. The Wi-Fi was included, and I think a shore excursion. And a 7-night cruise out of Port Canaveral on Norwegian, and it was coming in just over $1,700 a person. That's not bad for a Christmas week cruise. If you were not going on Christmas, that would be expensive, but those holiday cruises are quite high. But that also tells me that there are still cabins to sell, and that fare may actually come down even more. So we'll see if our friends actually pull through and actually join us. But the one that I'm leaning towards and actually possibly getting a little bit excited is headed back up to Alberta and Vancouver. And an experience I have not done before is there is actually a train ride on Via Rail Canada that will take you from roughly Jasper, Alberta, through the Canadian Rockies over to Vancouver. It's about a 24-hour train ride, and but the views are amazing. I have done a train trip from Munich to through the Austrian Alps when I was much younger in high school on my own, and that was an amazing trip as well. The views over there, but obviously the trade off of the extra travel time, the extra travel expense, versus just flying up, northwest of here to Alberta into Canada and being closer to home. So it would be technically a cheaper trip probably, and a somewhat similar experience to be, you in the mountains at a cooler place over Christmas and seeing snow. Because I'm a South Georgia guy. Christmas snow is appealing to me. I know some of you that's not quite appealing, but to me it is. So we'll see what that is going to be. So then next up, as we talked about, San Antonio in January over MLK weekend. My bowling team has come together. There are 4 of us. We have committed to go bowling. And so that registration has been submitted. And then I was out there looking. They have a pretty decent rate. It is at Crown Plaza at the San Antonio airport. They got a rate of $99 a night, which is pretty good. But then I was looking, I do have a stash of Amex membership rewards points. And so I was in the website the other day looking at that, and it was a pretty decent redemption. So I think it went up to just over 14,000 membership rewards per night at that same hotel in a king size bed. And I was reading through all the details, and it said you have until December 2023 for changes and cancellations. I was like, okay, great. I think it's still going to happen, but somebody could pull out. Who knows what can happen? So I'll click submit, and the next page said, nope, actually, it's not refundable. I was like, well, wait a minute. I was just on a page that you had me scroll down, click. I just read all of this, and it said, yes, this is changeable, refundable till December, and now you're telling me that just didn't happen. Lovely. Now, is it the end of the world? No. So I got the confirmation. I called into, actually, I first tried to chat with them, because anytime dealing with customer service, I find that chatting is a little more efficient if it's available. And also, if you chat, you have a usually better record of he said, she said. But chatting with Amex Travel was not a thing, even though they claimed it was. So I called in. Didn't have to wait very long. Someone did answer. I would say she was a Native American person actually answered. And so she went through it and she said, that's how it's booked. It is non-refundable, non-changeable. I think the penalty, she said, was in some odd, 200 some odd dollars. I said, well, I booked with points. And there was an awkward silence. She said, well, I can open a case for you. I said, okay, well, let's do that just in case something were to happen. And she gave me a case number. And this was, I guess, a couple of days ago. And I'm waiting to hear back on. Sorry, a phone call came in. Hopefully that didn't interrupt anything. So stay tuned. Hopefully I will not have to escalate that issue. And also, if something were to happen and, folks still need it, they can use it. Maybe I can transfer the name to someone else, who knows, or add a name or something like that. But yeah, not the best experience there, Amex Travel, but, first world problems, right? So hopefully we'll get that settled. And then Ireland, the flights actually are in time. I was actually looking at some of those flight options recently, and updating that little group there, but it's still there's a lot of irons in the fire still, and probably still looking at that more heavy, maybe February, March, but it's way too soon or way too far out to start booking flights for that. So, all right, moving on. The upgrade fund. Just a reminder. Again, I appreciate all of the interest in the podcast. So while I'm doing this, But also remind you, if you have other bills to pay, pay them first. But I do have an upgrade fund, and I do actually honestly need to put a little more work into it. But if you go to patreon.com/peachnews, this is not the only project I have in the works. I have political stuff in the works. I have just normal news. You can hear me on Radio Tucker 3 days a week, 3 times a day. So I got lots of other irons in the fire. And if you may have a business, let's chat about it and co-market. I would love, more than anything else, to actually promote your little business on my little podcast and co-market, and you not have to shell out money for that. Let's barter. Let's make that happen. So just, a couple of 2 cents there. But again, pay your bills before you pay my bills, please. All right, so next up, I actually did get a offer, and you'll see these links over and screenshots over at my upgrade offer. American Express did give me a promo to open, I believe, a checking account, so $250-ish. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll open it. And so I clicked on the link, and it said, okay, that your application is pending. And then within 30 minutes, I got an email and said that it was not a rejection. It said something to the effect of, we have withdrawn your application. Okay. Sorry, not sorry. But anyway, so I guess Amex didn't want me to have a checking account with them, so it didn't go there. But then around the same time or the next day, I got an offer from Chase Bank. So Chase wanted to give me a $900, and there's some strings to it. Like, you got to give them $15,000, you got to keep it there for 90 days, you got to open a checking account, you got to do direct deposit. So there's some strings attached, but I can do all the above. And so I got that opened up. And so should have some cash rolling in from Chase to expand my little accounts over there. So thanks, Chase, and was a decent experience to get the account open. I wish I could have done it all online, but I got to that page and it said computer saying no. Please do an appointment and come in and see us. But everybody was nice. They were all smiling, and it's a nice, pretty little branch over here in Tucker next to the Publix, and great, love it. Well, I'll take $900 to play your little game there. All right. Feedback next up. As a reminder, comment here, subscribe, email robert@peachnews.co if you have any feedback. The feedback I'm going to keep anonymous here, but it also ties into the previous episodes. Again, I do appreciate all the interest in what I'm doing here, and let's go. So I'm just going to read this verbatim. As you know, and I mentioned it here earlier, JetBlue has matched my status over at Delta, and so I'm sharing that experience on how it's going. And so my friend, he said, I am interested to see how your travels on JetBlue. My best friend's brother has been a Mosaic on JetBlue for years. As you mentioned, the idea of upgrading to Mint is new. And so that confirms what I found about that. So back around 2018, he was flying a lot from Fort Lauderdale to San Francisco weekly. So Fort Lauderdale is a hub for JetBlue. And so the only way to upgrade was to buy a full or whatever the current offer was, to either pay or use True Blue points to go up to Mint. He claimed you could not even use miles, at least back then, but that is something they added later. It was cash or nothing since his company would not pay, so this was business travel, and he didn't want to come out of his own pocket, and he was never able to get it. So again, that was also one of the appealing things, and something that is relatively new, for JetBlue to see how it works out for them. And this is also on the heels of a couple of other things behind the scenes at JetBlue. Their merger or alliance with American was vetoed recently, which was interesting. And then they are also trying to push for a merger, I believe, with Spirit. I think that's still ongoing. But there was some movement with the unions over at JetBlue and Spirit that were favorable, to that possible merger. So we shall see. how that goes. Some other recent news and very unfortunate news over in Israel, the Gaza Strip. So again, hopefully that didn't interrupt, but our thoughts are with all the folks over in that part of the world. Um, I don't want to get into all the back and forth with all that, but if you are a airline employee and you are and you traveled with your airline benefits, there was a story about a flight attendant that was in Tel Aviv with a tour group on vacation. And when all that happened suddenly, they were trying to figure out how to get home. She didn't bring her company ID, and so she was not able to use her travel privileges to get out of the country as soon as possible. Not a smart move. Um, Honestly, I don't know why an airline employee would bring their passport and leave their company ID at home. I'll just leave it at that. But again, I do, my thoughts are with everyone affected by all that. I believe there was, a number of airline employees that were also even killed in what happened, and it's just a really, really bad situation all around. I've had folks here, acquaintances that have had that they've shared stories about what's going on, and it's just a really, really sad situation. That really in 2023 the world is still fighting over probably first world problems, and it's really unfortunate. So, anyhow, moving on. Another friend actually shared that there was another travel blog. I will not name the said travel blog, but he just sent a link, and there were these gentlemen that they share their travel stories, not too different than what I do. I don't know that they go into the behind the scenes stuff like I do with, but he made a comment. He says, here's a link. These guys annoy me. I want to like them, but they don't make it easy. And so I wasn't able to listen or watch immediately, but a day or two later, I finally sat down and listened to the link. And about, 7 or 8 minutes into watching them, they were sitting, at the camera, much like I'm doing here. And I honestly had no idea what they were talking about. That they were talking about some cruise that they had booked, and just one of them had a feeling that he should cancel the cruise. The conversation was going nowhere for literally 5, 8, 10 minutes. Huh? Okay, you had a feeling, you canceled it, but what was the rest of the story? I hope I don't do that. That's not what I intend to do. I usually try to get straight to the point and don't string you along. Um, yeah. So, if I do, tell me. I don't want this project to be annoying. Because literally, like I said, these guys annoy me. I want to like them, but they don't make it easy. I would much rather you send me feedback and let me know what I'm doing good or not. And we'll leave it at that. Okay, so this is episode 4. Going through all of the notes here, I think the title is going to be something to, I'm here to help you, not annoy you. I think that's going to be the title for this one. So enjoy. Again, it's just Monday. Have a great week. It's chilly. I don't know if I'm going to turn the heat on in the house yet to get the 2 other opinions of the folks that live here. But have a great week, and we'll catch up with you in roughly a week or week and a half. Bye, guys.